We've encountered what we deem to be potential offset chambers or voids in the ground, so we're starting to collect some data for you guys.
What if the biggest disaster on Oak Island was actually the biggest breakthrough? The team's multi-million-dollar money pit shafts are now just flooded, collapsed holes.
The water's squirting up from the bottom. You'll see it in the back corner.
Oh, yeah. Do we know if it's fresh or salt?
Don't know.
It looked like the ultimate defeat. But get this, Rick Lagina at 73 has just confirmed that evidence from inside that wreckage is the most important find in their history. They found something incredible that rewrites the timeline of the island. We are going to show you exactly what they found, why it proves the treasure is real, and the shocking new theory it creates about the pit's true purpose. After the cave-in, a shocking new theory. The mission on Oak Island has always been about one thing: solving a mystery that has baffled the world for over 225 years. But for Rick and Marty Lagina, that mission just hit a literal wall of mud, water, and twisted steel. For the last several seasons, the team had pinned all their hopes on the Money Pit area. This wasn't just digging a hole, this was a modern-day siege. They had drilled a series of 7-foot diameter steel caissons, massive reinforced shafts known by their code names like TB1 and TOT1. These were punched deep into the earth, designed to hold back the island's relentless floodwaters and unstable ground. This was the culmination of years of work, and it was paying off.
There are some pretty concrete signs that say this might be the original money pit, or it could be right next to it. It could have been the original attempt, one of the original attempts.
Groundwater testing using advanced water tracing dyes had pinpointed a large, tantalizing source of precious metals, specifically gold and silver, more than 100 feet underground, right in this spot. They were digging, finding artifacts, and even seeing compelling evidence of a possible treasure vault nearly 160 feet deep. It felt like they were inches from the answer, and then the island, as it always does, fought back. The moment of disaster was caught on camera, and it was terrifying. A crew member, Jared, was monitoring the excavation from a control booth when he saw the ground on his screen begin to move. He yelled, "Stop! It's caving all the way back."
Stop. It's caving. It's caving all the way back.
The earth beneath both shafts, TB1 and TOT1, suddenly gave way. It was a total catastrophic collapse. We're not talking about a little mudslide, we're talking about thousands of tons of earth, rock, and steel imploding, filling the multi-million-dollar shafts with debris and floodwater in a matter of seconds. Years of effort and millions of dollars vanished. For any normal operation, this would be the end. This is where you pack up, write off the loss, and go home. But it's not that simple, though. This is Oak Island. And what most people don't realize is that this collapse wasn't just a random tragic accident. It was a violent, horrifying confirmation of the island's oldest, darkest legend. Let's rewind.
There's the famous Oak Island legend. 6 people have died, then a 7th has to die.
In search of the treasure.
In search of the treasure, and that's when all will be revealed.
Back in 1795, the story goes, 3 teenagers found a depression in the ground under an oak tree. They started digging and found a layer of flagstones, and then, every 10 feet, a platform of oak logs. They got 30 feet down before they gave up, but the story got out. 9 years later, in 1804, a group called the Onslow Company took over. They dug all the way down to 90 feet, and there they found it, a large, flat stone covered in strange, carved symbols. It was a message. Upon its removal, the shaft instantly flooded with 60 feet of seawater. They had triggered the booby trap. For the next 2 centuries, that's been the story. Treasure hunters, one after another, have tried to bypass that trap. They dug more than a dozen different adjacent shafts and tunnels, trying to come in from the side or from below. And every single time they fell victim to flooding, cave-ins, and disaster. All that digging, all those abandoned tunnels, made the Money Pit area a honeycomb of unstable, water-filled voids. It's the most dangerous and unstable piece of real estate on the planet. The Lagina team knew this. They thought their modern steel-reinforced caissons could beat it. But the collapse of their shafts, the strongest ever put in the ground, proved the booby trap was bigger, more complex, and more violent than they ever knew. So here's the deal. The team gathered in the war room and the mood was grim. This was a crushing defeat. But Marty Lagina, the engineer of the group, laid out a shocking new theory. What if the treasure wasn't just at 160 feet? What if the original depositors, whoever they were smarter than that? What if they built their vault above a natural, deeper feature? The collapse, Marty argued, meant the treasure and everything with it had fallen. It had gone even deeper into what geologists call a solution channel, basically a natural cave in the bedrock now flooded and hundreds of feet down. The collapse wasn't the end of the treasure, it was just the treasure moving. Rick Lagina at 73, the man driven by the romance of the quest, agreed. The mission wasn't over. It had just gotten infinitely harder. The treasure was now at a depth they had never even considered, in a place they couldn't reach.
Somebody says, on your property, there's gold right here, drill right here. And you think, yeah, why not? Why not drill a hole right here? But then we can't just drill a hole wherever somebody thinks it is. So we have to do a little more diligence on this technology, and we intend to.
But they couldn't dig in the rubble. They couldn't even get close. So how in the world did they find anything? The answer was in the one thing the collapse hadn't taken from them: what the collapsed shaft left behind. The money pit was a no-go zone. It was a flooded, dangerous graveyard of their best-laid plans. But the team had an ace up their sleeve, a massive, muddy ace. Before the shafts ever collapsed, the massive excavation had produced thousands upon thousands of tons of dirt, rock, and debris. All of this material, known in the business as spoils, had been scooped out by the giant caisson drills from deep within the money pit area, and every bucket was saved. It was all transported and piled high over at Smith's Cove, the very spot where the original booby trap tunnel supposedly began. And get this, that pile of dirt was now the single most important clue they had. It was, quite literally, a mountain of evidence. It was a time capsule of everything the money pit contained, from the surface soil all the way down to the 160-foot level right before the collapse. If there was a clue to be found, it was in that pile. So Marty Lagina, Craig Tester, and of course metal detection expert Gary Drayton headed to the spoils pile. This was the ultimate needle in a haystack operation. We're talking about trying to find tiny metal objects in a mountain of mud and rock the size of a building. Gary fired up his detector, but there was a huge problem. The pile was hot, absolutely screaming with signals. The issue is iron masking. Basically, the pile was contaminated with 200 years of failed searches. It was full of old, rusted iron fragments, broken tools, spikes, and barrel bands from previous searchers. And all this junk iron creates a loud signal that can easily mask or hide a small, non-ferrous target. A gold coin or a silver artifact would be just a whisper inside that storm of iron noise. They had to dig every single signal, no matter how frustrating. And they had already found some mind-blowing things here. Last year, they pulled a stunningly old iron pickaxe from this exact dirt.
It's a pickaxe. That is really cool. This is what I was hoping for, an old tool.
Yeah, broken a long time ago. No recent break. Look at the shape, mate. It's broken here. This ain't no heavy-duty pickaxe. This is a tunneling pick.
Yes, it is. Look at how short it is.
How old? Experts analyzed its design and metallurgy and suggested it could date back to the 1600s. That's more than 100 years before the money pit was supposedly discovered in 1795. It was a wow factor that changed their entire understanding of the timeline. Now, they were back scanning the same pile, hoping for another miracle. Gary got a strong, solid signal. It was different from the junk. "Whoa, that's a good one, mate," he yelled. It was deep. Billy Gerhardt brought in the excavator, carefully, surgically scraping away layers of dirt. Gary went back in with his pinpointer. "Ooh," he said, digging with his hands. "There we go, that's more like it." He pulled out a heavy, dark piece of iron. It was caked in mud, but it wasn't a spike.
It's there.
That was a little bit off. Oh, there we go. That's more like it. That is a tool of some kind. Look at that.
Yeah.
Wow.
It wasn't a modern bolt. It was clearly a tool. It looked like a chisel, thick and robust, with a flattened, hammered top and a sharp, functional blade. It wasn't modern, that was obvious to everyone. It had the same look, the same feel as the other ancient artifacts. Marty was immediately excited. This tool, like the pickaxe, came from deep in the money pit. If it was old, it was more proof. It was possible proof that somebody other than searchers was way deep in the money pit doing serious, heavy-duty work. This wasn't just a hole, it was a sophisticated construction site. This find leads to a wild theory. What if the spoils pile isn't just trash? What if the depositors, in their genius, knew searchers would one day dig here? What if they seeded the fill dirt with clues, knowing that their booby traps would destroy any direct approach? It's a crazy thought, but on Oak Island you can't rule it out. The tool looked old, it felt old, but they needed proof. They needed hard data. The lab, and only the lab, would hold the answer. The team bagged the artifact, their hopes higher than they'd been since the collapse. Confirmation. What was really buried? This is the moment the entire quest pivots. This is the payoff. Rick and Marty Lagina, along with Craig Tester, Gary Drayton, and other key team members, brought the newly found chisel to the Oak Island laboratory. This isn't some backroom shed, it's a high-tech facility. They met with archaeologist Laird Niven and archaeometallurgist Emma Culligan. The chisel was carefully cleaned, just enough to get a bare, uncorroded strip of metal, and Emma prepared to analyze it. The team gathered around, the tension was thick. Emma pointed to her screen. She had used a device called an X-ray fluorescent scanner, or XRF. This is a serious wow factor piece of tech. It's a handheld device that looks like a space-age scanner. It shoots a beam of non-destructive radiation at an object which excites the atoms inside. These atoms then release their own energy, their own X-rays, which the scanner reads. Basically, it gives you a precise chemical fingerprint of the object's composition, element by element. And that fingerprint is the key to dating it. Emma explained the results.
This is definitively not modern. So we would comfortably put it in the 1700s.
Sweet.
Yeah, and it could potentially be older.
The chisel's composition was simple iron, but what most people don't realize is that the absence of certain elements is the real clue. She explained that modern steel, anything made after the mid-1800s, is full of alloys. Other metals added to give it strength. The number one alloy she looks for is manganese. Then she delivered the bombshell. It lacks any modern alloying element like manganese, she stated, or any other element I would normally find.
It lacks any modern alloying element like manganese or any other element I would normally find, which indicate older.
Brilliant.
The room was silent. This is definitively not modern, she confirmed. The team leaned in. Marty, the engineer, pressed for a date. How old was it? Emma, based on the specific chemical signature and the manufacturing style, comfortably put the chisel in the 1700s. And then she added the kicker that blew the roof off the lab. And it could potentially be older. Let's all just stop and put this in perspective. The official recorded history of Oak Island begins in 1795 when 3 teenagers supposedly found a funny-looking tree. This chisel, which was pulled from the material deep within the collapsed shaft, was almost certainly dropped, used, and lost before those boys were even born. This was the confirmation Rick Lagina, at 73, had been waiting for his entire adult life. This wasn't a searcher's tool. This wasn't contamination. This was an original depositor's tool. It proves, beyond a shadow of a doubt, that a major, sophisticated, well-funded operation was happening deep underground in the Money Pit area, long before the legend even began. Rick, who is normally calm and reflective, was visibly moved. He called it a great find to start the year, the kind of tangible proof that keeps the quest going. This chisel, this one amazing find, rewrites the timeline of Oak Island. And think about the tool itself, a chisel. It's not just a digging tool like a pick or a shovel. A chisel is a shaping tool. It's used for fine woodworking, for fitting joints, or for masonry and stone carving. This implies a level of construction far beyond just a rough pit. It implies they were building something complex, something like a sealed wooden vault. Or maybe, as some theories suggest, shaping stone for an even more permanent structure. So, is the chisel the final clue that will lead to the treasure, or is it just a tombstone for a mystery that's now buried forever? Let us know what you think. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe.